Hey everybody, welcome back to Gig Ready. Jordan Goodfellow here. Real quick before we get started today, just wanted to say thanks again for listening. You guys are awesome. We appreciate all your feedback. We appreciate you letting us know how we're doing. So please feel free to keep that feedback coming. You can send us emails at gigready@gigrent.com or jump online onto your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. Tell everybody we're 5 stars because I know we are. And we're looking forward to a great show today. But first off, I just wanted to say thanks. You guys are awesome as professionals. I know we've been through a tough time over the last 12 months, but as professionals go, you guys are the greatest in the world, and there's nobody else like you. So thanks so much for being an event professional, and we're looking forward to this new episode of the Gig Ready podcast. All right, guys, thanks for that dance. I appreciate it. Jordan Goodfellow here, Gig Ready. We're really excited about today. We've got a very special guest with us from the actual local chapter in Oregon, the live events industry of Oregon, Dwayne Thomas. He's also the president and founder of Greenlight Creative. They are a boutique event lighting design and production company. He, of course, has been a lighting designer for 40 years, which is an incredible career. And recently, he actually became the founder and president of the live events industry of Oregon. Really long intro, but Dwayne, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to talking about what's happening in the industry right now and how people can get some help, support, and help support our industry.
Cheers. Thanks. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
And
nice
we also
to talk to you guys both.
Yeah,
who's your sidekick there?
I know that's where I was going to next. We have a sidekick today, bringing the color, bringing the commentary. Co-host today, Joe Mack of More Than Light. He's here to help us talk about what the industry's doing and where it's going. Joe, so glad to have you here. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for having me back. I had such a great time last time. I couldn't keep me away.
Couldn't stay away. Well, where to start? Dwayne, you jumped onto the board of the national board of the Live Events Coalition, being the Gov't Affairs Chair over there. Quite the responsibility. Moving from being a lighting designer and having not had much work, I'm sure, for the last 12 months or so. Now you're lobbying Capitol Hill. You're working on behalf of the events industry. What has that role kind of brought to mind, the change, everything that revolves around that?
Boy, it's a lot. It is not like event lighting design at all whatsoever, as you can imagine. It's not like it in so many ways. The business cycle is really different. We have a very closed loop in our world in events. And so, the curtain goes up at 7:00 on the 9th, whether you're ready or not. So deadlines are a real thing with us. And although there's deadlines in governance, certainly there are so many ways to delay those. So getting used to that cycle of events and learning that patience has been a pretty heavy lift so far. The other thing is, I put it to someone the other day like this. Imagine if we didn't have almost any access to a client that we're trying to sell something to sell our services to, but you desperately need to sell it. That's kind of what talking to members of Congress is like. You'll probably get the meeting. The member probably won't be in it, but it could take months, and
Wow.
your problem could have sunset by then. Or the opportunity to get your foot in the door might have now just disappeared. The other thing about it is that we, especially in lighting, you get to look at the results of your work and go, cool. And most always, it's something you're at least reasonably happy with if you're any good at it, I suppose. The results are almost always disappointing in government advocacy. It's generally too little and it's often too late. And I'd say the last thing about the difference and the thing that you got to adjust to is just, how do I say this delicately? Politics is really, really dirty. It's exactly as dirty as you think it is. just the backbiting and the one guy leaves the Zoom and the other guy says, okay, I can finally say what I was going to say, but I had to wait till he left. It's really it's a pay to play world. Our industry has a sort of established lobby through NEVA, National Independent Venue. And the reason why they got so much done with Save Our Stages was that they have that lobby. It was established. We don't. We're building the plane and trying to fly it at the same time, because the need to fly it is very real. The need for relief is very real. The need for legislation that's going to help our industry is prescient. It's now, and so we have no choice but to bobble around, actually still bolting the plane together as we're trying to take it off. There was just no choice in the matter. So it's been a very frustrating process to get to where we are. In April, we all thought we'll get a nice check coming our way, and CARES Act came along, and we thought, oh, that was easy. And ever since that, and we didn't know we had nothing to do with that, by the way. We all thought that our letters had actually helped. Now we know how much more focused our efforts have to be, and how now we have a lobby that's actually 10 months old rather than brand new that nobody's heard of. So the wins are starting to happen, fortunately, based on that. And there's still plenty of losses, but that's kind of the difference. The thing it has in similar, the thing that's similar about doing advocacy work and being a lighting guy is that there's definitely a unique technical language that you have to know. And that has been a learning curve like no other. I find myself in presentation meetings, with other organizations, talking to an ILEA chapter in Minnesota or something like that, which I do frequently now. I find myself spitting out these things that I didn't even know a week ago. And the onus is on me to sound like an expert. But let me tell you, the imposter syndrome is real with this work. Every night you go, why is this me doing this? I can't be the only one who sort of knows what they're doing. But furthermore, I really don't know what I'm doing. So a lot of times you have to check yourself and realize, look, just keep learning, just keep doing the work, just keep reading, read. And I have access to professional lobbyists. So I get to ask them just candidly, what does this mean? What is reconciliation? How does that work? And things like that. And just having said those words now, I realized only 2 weeks ago, I didn't know a thing about how reconciliation works, or even what it was, or even that it existed. So anyway.
So that actually brings up a really great question. How did you even end up in this role? I mean, tell us what kind of things you were doing before, and then how did you jump into this like deep end pool of advocacy?
Well, I tell a lot of people, folks do funny things when their backs are up against the wall. So I rightfully or not rightfully, I suppose, I do get a lot of praise and thanks from colleagues all over the country, and that's really heartwarming and wonderful, and makes this so much easier. But the truth of it is this isn't 100% something that you do out of this sort of kindness piece. I certainly do care about my industry and my colleagues, and absolutely I want to raise them all up. But at the end of the day, I had to go save my business, and that'll get you started in a thing like this. To me, there's nothing else I could have done. But I started because, and by the way, I've heard this story from other state chapters who all have now funneled into LEC. I started one morning waking up realizing this is late March and the order to close down had just happened. And we actually lost our first event back in late February, about a week before load-in. We lost a large sales launch for Adidas, and so we had seen the writing on the wall. But we thought it was still just basically the flu season, So by the time the state shut down, third week of March, a couple of days after that, I woke up and realized, governor's going to open us back up probably June-ish, July-ish, and that is what happened. And by by us, I meant the businesses people know, like gyms and restaurants and non-essential retail and things like that were at that time shut, right? And I thought, but here's the thing: everybody will think everything's fine now, and it's demonstrably not fine for our industry because they won't open us back up.
Yeah.
And no one will even bat an eye or ask a question about it. I need to do something. I don't know what that looks like. So I started having conversations with what became basically the other four founders of LEIO. We started talking about who else can we bring into the fold. We started, researching all the health issues around reopening, because we thought one of our plans was to be in on the conversation about what reopening for our industry could look like and what measures we would have to take to even have an event. We did things like go out and find thermal scanners that people could put at the door so people could come to the event and get their temperature taken. All these things that we thought were going to be critical. And at the same time, we saw this guy named Isaac Rothwell, who was basically the guy that started the effort at LEC. He's considered one of the founders, but he did this thing on his own. He wrote, you guys probably signed it, he wrote a petition effort in mid-March and put it on change.org, this kind of petition host website. And almost 500,000 people signed it. Sadly, change.org won't give you people's emails that sign the petition for anything less than, I believe the price was 80 cents an address.
Wow.
So not having $400,000, we never captured those contacts. So we don't know who signed that thing. But out of that came LEC, and that kind of inspired me to do something at the state level. At the same time, I started reaching out to people at LEC, just whoever I could find on their Facebook page, and it took a while. It took about 2 months, and we had formed our organization, and we're actually an official. We're an LLC, believe it or not. We're changing, but that's another story. So we got that going, and our intent was to do some federal, outreach with our own members of Congress here in Oregon, and also do a lot of state outreach and find out what we can get done. One of the things that we won on right away was a commercial eviction moratorium here in the state. So that was definitely useful. And we ultimately became part of the engine that got the PPP rules to change. Initially, you only had 2 months to use the money, and it had to be 75% payroll. And we got that changed in late May. That was our first big win. And a lot of what drove that was just going to our own 2 senators here in Oregon, who then go to their caucus on the Senate floor and say, listen, this is what we're hearing. Are you hearing this too? And that's how that got done. So that's kind of the opening of the thing. And I won't pretend that I had this grand strategy to write for the national and to sit in on every member of Congress meeting. I did not think that or intend that. This all just sort of steamrolls, and it has been, it has driven itself, honestly. I would tell you that there's a good chance I wouldn't be sane now, cooped up at the house without this work. It's not like I have any lighting to do. So yeah, it's been a blessing in that way to have a purpose and a function.
Well, watching from a distance, it's actually been inspiring to me to see, because I know you so well. We worked together at Hollywood Lights many moons ago, but it's really cool to see how you took the principles of your being and who you are as a person, and you converted it into this position of advocacy for everybody in our industry. And it's really powerful to watch. I mean, it really is. Just being on the sidelines, it's really cool to see. So I thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It really is an honor to be trusted with this important work. And you fight off the imposter syndrome because you know that somebody has to do this, and it's okay if you don't know everything. Go out and ask and learn. And if you trip, you get back up. But it is absolutely an honor to be trusted with this important work. And I hope we get done what we set out to do.
Yeah. I think it's been. I've been watching the LEC from the sidelines too, and it's been very encouraging to see some of the work that's been done. I mean, it's when you look at our industry, we've always lived in the shadows. We're always we're the backstage, we're the people in the dark wearing black, because the whole goal
if we're doing it right.
Yeah, exactly, was for nobody to think about us. Don't worry about us. We're just here to make the show go well. And thank you for stepping out of the light, or stepping out of the dark into the light, and helping those that don't have a voice or don't know how to do it. I was actually messaging through LinkedIn with the president of LEC just last week.
Nancy.
Say that again?
Nancy.
Yes, with Nancy. And we were just talking back and forth a little bit about what they're doing and what they're up to. And it's just really cool to see all the great stuff that's been happening. Now, taking on such a big task, because it is. I mean, it's giant. It's not easy, as you mentioned before, to lobby Congress or any sort of influence in that nature. How do you manage this role of, not only being your own business owner, because it's not like you're just full-time getting paid to lobby and work with the live events chapter in Oregon or anything like that. How are you managing both, both from a personal standpoint, family life, home life, and then business, and then also, adjusting to really taking on all the advocacy stuff?
I don't know if I do manage it, if I'm honest. No, well, okay, I must. First of all, there's not much lighting to manage right now. After shutdown in March, I believe we successfully pulled out 8 total events. I think we had 5 virtual fundraisers that we got involved with. Pennies on the dollar, mind you.
Yeah.
Literally like 5% of what we would have gotten paid to do the live event, right?
Yep.
But we did them. We were happy. I was happy to give my staff some work, for Lord's sakes. And then I think we had 3 outdoor micro weddings, and that's it. I think we rented gear to a couple of people here and there as well, which ends up costing you more to send somebody to the shop to open up and pull it, and you pay them their 4-hour minimum, and then you get a $90 rental out of it. So, yeah. But there hasn't been much. To be honest. And I did keep my business manager, who's I've worked with for nearly 30 years now, going way back to before I was at Hollywood Lights and before I started this company, Dina. So she is on like an 18-hour a week schedule just to keep, she goes to the shop and gets the mail once a week and starts the trucks, and that drives them around the parking lot and stuff like this. And she also keeps the bills paid and the lights on. And she's been the engine that does things like help get our PPP and our EIDL loan and things like that. So it really has freed me up to do, I would say, 95% of my day is advocacy. And the other 5%, I might work on a proposal or something for a new piece of business, a year from now. And that, by the way, I hope that other people in our sphere are starting to see the outlook improve. I think it's like there's a hard line between June and May, right? Where there's nothing in May, and all of a sudden we've got all these things on the books for June. If you're in multiple verticals, you're probably just seeing the weddings. We're in all the verticals. We don't care. We do weddings, we do corporate events, we do rock and roll, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so the only thing we're seeing is people having weddings, and the summer's actually looking quite full.
Well, that's good.
That could all go away if this vaccine doesn't happen. But the bobbling of the two things, I'm fortunate to have a little bit of help and a nice home office where I can hang out with my dog and just work away. And that's how I get through it pretty much.
So help the listeners here understand the structure of the live events industry machine, the between the coalition and the states, and how many states do you have involved,
Okay.
Are all 50 states represented? Is my next question.
Not yet, but our 3-year plan, and by the way, we're not putting this away when the pandemic goes away. This is going to stay.
Yeah.
I think I hinted at that. If we had been around 5 years ago and had already built the plane, we would have had very different results from our efforts. So we're keeping this. It's been too hard to get it going to take it apart. But so the way it's working now is there's been about a 6-month effort to get this formalized. And just yesterday, they got the final paperwork back from legal as to the agreement between a chapter state and the national LEC. So it'll look a lot like, have you guys ever heard of the American Rental Association? So all rental houses, like party rental places and so forth, they tend to be a member of this.
Huh.
And when you basically, you sign up and whatever state you're in, you're a member of that state's chapter now, but your money goes to LEC. The LEC will then kick the states back a portion of that money to help them, keep their operations open. States are free to do whatever they want in their own state efforts, but we will be feeding out each state chapter the national language. So if they want to talk to a federal member of Congress in their own state, we ask them to sing from our hymnal. Basically, we want to control the narrative when it comes to federal governance, but they can take on any project they want in terms of their own state. Also, we'll be able to offer members things like we already have group health lined up. So if you're out there in the individual world, you know how expensive that is. I know I priced mine out and it was about 30% less than I was paying for my own individual healthcare. So we already offer that, and we're going to continue with things like that. We're going to continue with seminars and mental health programs. And next week, a week from today, we are doing a seminar about basically advocacy 101. Myself and one of our lobbyists and another one, fellow on our Government Affairs Committee is going to be leading that. So you can basically come and learn how to better advocate. What do you say when you're in a meeting, Zoom meeting with these people, things like that. So, and there's an entire committee that's working out membership details and what members are going to get for their $75. There's people figuring out how to raise money because lobbyists are expensive. The entire reason, this is not expensive running a coalition, by the way. Oregon has had the same $2,000 in the bank for like 6 months now. Basically, we've never fundraised. We all just chipped in some money on our own, and it got us our website up and constant contact subscription and things like this. But it isn't expensive to do it, really. But if you have lobbyists, that's different.
Yeah.
Those guys seeing you coming. But you can't do it without them. There's just no way to get into Senate Leader Schumer's office without them. You can knock on the door if you like as a little unknown advocacy group, but if you have a lobbyist that can open the door for you because the guy used to work there, that's a whole different thing. So and that's, again, you got to pay to play.
Now, who the lobbyists that are assisting you at a federal level, what do they specialize in? I mean, are they just the key to the door, or do they actually have a stake in live events?
They don't. They have industry group clients. For instance, I work with two guys from the company that we use. One is GOP and the other one's a Dem. And the Dem guy used to work for a senator, on chief of staff for a senator, and the Republican guy worked in the House for John Boehner. So I get both chamber perspectives. It's a House strategy, then I talk to the Republican guy. If it's a Senate strategy, I generally get everything I need to know from the Dem. And same thing, if it's a party strategy, my Republican guy I hardly talk to him at all right now because, for the first time, I hate to say it, but we're not really doing that much outreach to GOP because Congress is completely controlled by the Democrats. And at the moment, the efforts they're making are going to happen strictly on a party basis. Once we have an initiative that's going to take 60 votes, that'll all change. Then we have to dig down, and we'll pretty much only be talking to Republicans because we already have the 50 on the Dem side. And so we know we'll have to find 10 more. So that they show us how to do that, right? They help us. They actually call themselves a creative advocacy strategy firm, I think is how they term it. So they are in our committee meetings, and they'll come and speak at some of our member meetings. They shoot us down a lot. In particular, I've had my heart broken on a couple things I thought we could get after, and they'll tell you no, and they'll tell you why. And that's really critical. They save us from spinning our wheels a lot. The other thing is if you have something you want to get into congressional leadership, that's majority leader, minority leader, Speaker of the House, these things, it's just going to get there easier if they send it. So they press play on a lot of our member of Congress communication efforts for us.
So that begs the question to me then, if we have to use lobbyists to get to a lot of these people, does the individual efforts of the constituents in all the states, the talking about, send your email to your congressman or your senator, or send this or send that. I mean, I've done it countless of times in the last 12 months. Does that really make a difference? Do they really see the volume of that? And is it worth their time? Or really is it just to send it out so you get the automated response email that says, oh, yes, we see you and we care about you? I'm not trying to be insensitive about it. I'm just asking the question, who are they really listening to? And do they care about the constituency and they're actually listening? Or is it just the lobbyists?
Yes, is the answer. They do care. It does get to them. What you don't know is if you send it to the general inbox at your senator or representative's website, it by law, it becomes an official congressional record, your letter. Okay. So if you happen to know a staffer and you send them an email, that's not an official part of law. That's just a communication, and they may or may not answer you. I have entire months where my own guys here in Oregon just ghost me. And then all of a sudden they'll call me out of the blue and they'll say, hey, we have an idea. So it's like, it's such madness on Capitol Hill right now that I can't sometimes even expect to get an answer. But to the single person out there in your state, it is absolutely critical that we keep the echo chamber full of noise. The more noise in the echo chamber, the better shot we have at getting recognized. Right. Now, would we like you to sing from our hymnal? Yes, we would. That's why we do letter campaigns. That's why we do petitions. And when you see those, please click them. It's easy. You're not going to have your taxes go up. They're not going to send immigration over to find you. It doesn't work that way. There are so many millions of these communications going on. What you're doing is you're elevating this because they can see that their inbox is now full of this letter in the case of a letter campaign, or in the case of a petition, we can go, this is how many people signed this thing. What do you think? There were this many in your state. There were this many in your district, so forth and so on. Yeah. So it is absolutely critical that you do that, of course. But if you are of the mind to pick up the phone and call your congressperson's office in your jurisdiction, in your area, you don't have to call the DC office. In fact, don't. But call their local office, especially if you know the Congress is on recess, right? There's no reason not to. You're going to talk to a staffer, and they're often right now, because of COVID, you're not going to talk to anybody. You're going to leave a message, and you may get a call back. But in your message, say the problem. Say what's going on. Talk about 12 million people who are impacted by this. Talk about the over 1 million businesses, small businesses mostly, that are getting crushed and have been forgotten. Talk about the fact that, Save Our Stages only helps 8% of our industry. The rest of us are in the exact same condition, but we're out in the cold. So congratulations, Congress, you just picked winners and losers, and you're not supposed to do that. So absolutely know the talking points. But even if you don't, even if you just want to call and say, or write and say, I don't know what to say here, man. I've been an independent, whatever. I've been an A2 for the last blah, blah, blah. And I'm out of work. I don't know what's coming back. What can you do to help our industry? That's better than nothing. I mean, our story is really easy because it's true. If we were having to stretch to get to something impressive as we talk to these folks, that would be different. That would be a real challenge. And I don't even know if I'd be comfortable doing it. But our story is just flat compelling. And you don't have to lie or exaggerate at all to get to the compelling part. It is written itself. And I'm not saying that's a good thing that we're all living this, but we do have a unique situation where we can go, oh, that's cute that you think restaurants are in trouble. You want to come over here? We can't go food. We can't set up a tent in our front yard and do events. It is not happening. It's adorable that you think they're the hardest hit, but they're not.
Here's an LED parkhead. Take it home for the day.
Right. And do please enjoy. And remember, charge it up when you're done. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous to think. But that said, again, like you said it really well, Jordan, that we're invisible. We're supposed to. We're supposed to be in the background. It's our sacred mission for nobody at that fundraiser to know that right now in the room, there are 180 people who probably work for something like 20 to 22 companies doing this event. And you don't even know we're there. You're not supposed to. You're just supposed to come sit down, have a so-so dinner, and donate generously. That's it. That's your whole job. And then when the band comes on, you'll go, oh, there's some employees. It's band members. That's literally all you're aware of. And maybe the MC, right? Yeah. The auctioneer. That's it. But you don't know there's video guys running PowerPoint. You don't know that. And that's our job.
Yeah.
But it's really been detrimental for 11 months now that's the case. We thought we'd be just authoring congressional bills by June, right? And no. Really what we've done the first 6 months is just become known by explaining who we are and how many we are. That's been the exercise. Yeah. We've done the ask, don't get me wrong, but so that's been the biggest part of it.
Just circling back to what you said earlier about making phone calls, it sounds to me like while email could be effective, honestly, picking up the phone and just having the little bit of, I would say, boldness, because picking up the phone and calling some random number that you don't really necessarily know can be intimidating. And I can personally say myself, I don't want to call some staffer in my state and be like, hey, we have this big problem. And then and then have somebody on the other line be like, oh, that's not a problem. Think about this problem. But making that phone call really sounds like the right way to get a face with the problem, put a face or a name or a voice to the issue versus just an email that's a line in an automated inbox that shows up with a certain title on it. Would that be a pretty good way to, actually create better advocacy?
I do both. Honestly, there are so many, because of COVID and because they're not working in their offices. So you're going to get the office, you're going to get a machine. And so somebody's going to check it and hopefully they will get back to you. But when you call, leave your phone number and your email address because they might be happier sending you an email, right? But then also do go, if nothing else, again, go to the general inbox and send the email. Don't do this unless you know what you're going to say. Don't do this unless you know what the ask is. Calling and bitching is what every other one of their constituents are doing all day, every day.
Yeah.
Tell our story. Be compelling. Be okay telling the story of our industry and why we are where we are and how much longer we're going to be here. Tell them that just because the state's open us back up doesn't mean we just hang the open sign and start doing events tomorrow. Yeah. It's going to take months. Yep. Tours got to get booked, right? I mean, it's not going to happen that way. Besides, most of corporate has already said they are not meeting in 21 at all. Doesn't matter. They're just not doing it. No in-person in 21 for our major corporate clients have all said that.
Yeah.
So, you got to do both, I think, Jordan. Honestly, I think you got to hit both ends of that. And the other thing is, it's public record who chiefs of staff are and legislative directors are on these staffs. So you can go to congress.com or whatever it is, and you have all those email addresses right there. Just type in your state. It'll tell you who your rep is, who your two senators are, and there's the right address. So send it to a person if you want. Okay. I mean, that's, again, it doesn't automatically become official record that way, but Really, the point is to start a conversation.
Okay.
And be prepared for no. Be prepared for to get ghosted, and you just you have to keep going back over and over and over and over. Let's theorize that we're all out of work right now, right? What else are we doing?
Yeah.
Just take 20 minutes a day and do this. And again, echo chamber, it matters.
So now about that, like, so we know on a grassroots level we can call, but do we call our state reps? Do we call, I mean, how much of an echo chamber do we need to create? Is it our mayors? Do we call our, our local House rep in our state Congress?
Depends on the ask. It depends on the ask. If you're asking for something that will get legislated on the state level, absolutely. If you're looking for something that is the kind of money that's got to come from the feds, then there's not much will happen there. I've noticed situations where I've talked to a few local reps here in Oregon, and they've said, "Well, I'll get on the phone with Senator Merkley or Senator Wyden, our two U.S. Senators," and that doesn't not have value, but it's a long shot to get that much interest, because the first thing they're going to do when you get on the phone with them, and by the way, you will be able to talk directly to your state reps often. They aren't even. Most of them have jobs, by the way. This is a part-time gig for them. So getting in front of them isn't hard. But they're going to be very confused as to what it is you want from them if you don't know. So if you want to talk about, hey, man, you need to fix our state's unemployment system. It is a train wreck. And I had to wait 8 weeks to get one check. That's a very valid thing to take up with your state. Or if you're noticing that the state has done several small business assistance grant programs and you couldn't get in on any of them, that's a good thing to go, hey, just so you know, that money is going fast, and I applied for the last 5 and I couldn't get through any of them. You got to do more because we are shut down, man. Those are all things that if that's where the money comes from, or where the legislation can happen, then absolutely. But in terms of the things that the big stuff, like PUA, PEUC, all the unemployment stuff, the states aren't going to influence that at all. And your mayor definitely won't. Mostly what you'll get from the state down is a lot of ceremonial stuff. That said, boy, in Utah, they did a bang up job. They spent all their time on states, and Utah is, like I said, their industry is so small that people from our world are getting a check every month. So it's not that it can't happen. I just think the odds are better. This is such a huge problem, and you probably need so much money that federal is probably the only way you're going to get it.
Got it. Well, that's great information. I love that. Thinking about advocacy, thinking about all of the assistance that you just talked about, where can people get the most concise information to communicate exactly what the problem is? I mean, we've talked about 12 million out of work, tons of all small businesses. I mean, I don't know more than 2 or 3 live event companies that have more than 500 employees. So, I mean, we're talking all small businesses as the big, federal government classification. Lots of independent contractors, 1099, people that may not have qualified for unemployment in the first place. Is there a good place to go and get all of this information in one, relatively concise format?
So you're talking about where do I get the talking points? Is that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I am checking right now. I know, sorry that we're live and I shouldn't be stumbling on this, but we generally keep copies of our letters on the website, and I'm seeing one now. I'm checking to see if there is actually a talking points page.
This is at liveeventscoalition.org.
Correct, liveeventscoalition.org. Yes, here it is. If you click on resources, it'll take you to a lovely page, and it says legislative wins for the live events industry. So that'll tell you, you click there, and that will take you to my summary. It's about 5 pages long. It's hosted on Google Docs, and you can see broken down what's going to be for you and what isn't. That's the first thing. Then we generally keep talking points letters in there. You should give out my email address, and any of the listeners are welcome to contact me, and I can send you ready to go MOC packages. Sorry, member of Congress. Sorry, I'm totally turning into a wonk here. I don't mean to do that. Member of Congress packages. We have a nice 9-page graphic that's ready to roll. We have a letter that's ready for you to personalize. It's even yellow highlighted in the places you need to personalize it for your member of Congress. So that's ready to go. And we are just today finishing a case study document. We're trying to do one in key member states that's just case studies from their state of what's happening to our businesses, like with specific revenue numbers from 19 compared to 20. We don't name the company, but we say what vertical they're in. Like here's an exhibit builder in this state, blah, blah, blah. So, but we have one that I believe there's a New York and a Kentucky and an Oregon example. And it's an AV house and a exhibit builder and a caterer. So it's nice and broad, nice and diverse. And it's 3 hard hitting bits of stat. So we'll have that available for you to send around because numbers don't lie. So they're welcome to email me and to say, hey, I'd like to get your talking points package, your letter package, your communications package, because I want to take this on. I want to reach out to my guy. I will happily send that to you. You can either send it verbatim or you can lift sentences and paragraphs out of it to make your own thing.
Okay, great.
Now, if I'm in.
In fact, my email address is on this same page. So it's on the resources page.
I was just going to say, I'll make sure to drop it into the notes below this episode with advocacy resources, live events, coalition.org resources, so that people don't have to try and do it while they're listening. They can actually go back and just click on the link.
Perfect.
So if I'm in a different state than Oregon, how can I find my state level? Can you find it from the liveeventscoalition.org site?
No, not at this time. There are folks on a committee that is other than mine that are working really hard to gather. For instance, they're trying to gather every single state's reopening guidelines and every single state's where they are on reopening, because there's a great deal of consternation about, number one, what can I do and what can I not do, especially since it's getting really janky and you got Florida basically open, and you got New York threatening to open, especially with sports, with professional sports. You got Oregon is still essentially shuttered in terms of live events. So there's a lot of hand wringing over where do I even find this. And so there's a group in LEC that's working on gathering all that right now and making it a live thing with live links so you can go find the latest in addition to a current day's summary. That's a pretty big lift, 50 states, but I know I'm not involved, but they are working on that. In terms of finding your MOCs is really easy. You just basically go to just type into the Google search your state's name and then legislature, and you'll end up at a site that'll have contact for everybody. You enter your zip code and they'll tell you who your reps are and who your senators are.
Cool.
Outstanding. What so thinking of partners, thinking of other states, what if you don't find one in your state? What should somebody who says, hey, I want to advocate, I want to be the voice for our state, for the people that live and work in our state, what are a couple of steps they can take to begin that process of establishing that?
If you're not already, you should be following you should be in the Facebook page for LEC. That's a good resource for that. Rather than send an email to me, because I'm not that committee, I'm just gonna double check and see if this guy who heads this committee. Anyway, there's a guy who does nothing but this. He's onboarding new states and helping guide you through getting your local effort started. At one point, I was kind of doing that because I've now helped California, Washington, Illinois, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey get rolling. And I built the Kentucky chapter from the ground up myself. So everybody thought, oh, this guy's perfect for that. And it's no, this guy is busy, man. So we finally got somebody else to do it. And I see he is not yet on the website because this just happened last week, but he's working actively to help people form their own small coalition. Sometimes the coalition is literally just a Facebook group, and the people who are following it are people you invited in from the industry. And what happens is you start talking about, hey, I heard there's this program coming up. It's super helpful. But anyway, I would, rather than try to email him, his name is Sharon Nicholson, he's in Connecticut. I would go to the Facebook page and say, hey, I really want to get a state effort going, and I don't think there's one in my state. Can you let me know, A, is there one, and B, if there's not, how I can get this rolling? That's what I would do. We're really good about answering questions on Facebook. I'm
Great.
one of the people that does it.
No, that's outstanding. And if, let's say, people don't want to go through the effort, or they don't feel like they have the chutzpah to start a coalition in their own state, even as freelancers, do you think that it's a good idea to go and become a member of the event coalition? I mean, I shouldn't even say, should it be a good idea? It is a good idea to go jump online, go to the liveeventcoalition.org site and become a member. Yes, it's a couple of dollars, but your dollars go to a place that is going to help your industry and make your life better in the long run. Tell me if I speak out of turn, Dwayne.
I know, 100%, man. We need members. Honestly, we need your membership dues. And, for once, there's an organization you can join where we'll just candidly tell you exactly what we're going to do with the money. I will tell you, we're dead in the water without our lobbyists. And you know what? We're about to get unemployment extended. Okay. Does that matter to you? Because if it does it worth $75 to you to help us help you?
Yeah.
I think personally, it's a no-brainer. If you're a business owner, you join as a business and you get, X amount, depending on what level you join at, X amount of your employees can automatically be members. So if you're not somebody who offers insurance to your people, for instance, now you have a way that people can get a great deal on health insurance.
Okay.
There's just so many reasons. And more importantly, when you join, that helps us have your voice. We can only ask you to sign a petition or to get onto a letter campaign or to share your data as part of a survey if we have your email address. We can only get your email address if you join. I mean, it comes down to that. So more voices just makes us louder, just keeps the echo chamber full.
Awesome.
So that would be my pitch.
So the current bill on the Hill, I've heard a couple different scenarios and what's going on, but there's so much chaos going on because of impeachments and whatnot. Do you think the Save Our Stages Act helped or hurt our case to get the Restart Act going? Because, if I'm a congressman from, Idaho, and I don't know anything about the live event industry, and I signed, I'm going to vote for Save Our Stages. I feel like maybe I already did my part for the live event industry by doing that. But what they don't understand is it's more than just the venues. It's the people that run the venues that need help as well. So do you think they think that they've already done enough?
I think many of them do. I was talking to Leader Schumer 2 nights ago at a virtual event, and raised my hand and started my pitch. I was 2 sentences in. Chuck loves to cut you off, by the way. He interrupted me. He goes, "Yeah, we got you guys dialed, didn't we?" I was just starting to explain what we were. Didn't even get through the sentence. I said, "Actually, you're probably talking about SVOG, the Shuttered Venues guy." I said, "Yeah, that is a wonderful program, and it does help 8% of our industry." And he says, "What's left? What didn't we get?" And I just basically went through, well, we're the guys, we do AV, and we're event florists and designers and rental agencies and rental venues and planners and producers. We don't just do live performance. We do corporate events, and we do weddings and private events and social events and fairs and festivals. They only get to go once a year, and they're just dead in the water. And I got him to finally say on camera and recorded, he goes, "Yeah, here's who in my staff you got to talk to. I said, I just talked to him this morning, and he is now looking at our proposal, and we hope that you will too. And he goes, okay, great. We have to help you guys. That's on record.
Awesome.
That's huge. But the moral of this story is, I'm pretty sure you're right. We're all pretty sure you're right. They think done and done with SVOG. Yeah. And that, by that measure, that means it did more harm than good. And not taking away anything from our colleagues who own performance venues or happen to be a talent agent. Not taking anything at all away from that. I still take a lap on SOS because it was partially our parlance that got it pushed to the front. Unfortunately, Senator Klobuchar saw it as a way to get reelected. And so that's why she started pushing it in the first place. And it was, as we know, incomplete. So honestly, it's harmed us. It is the reason why in the current package, there's not much meat on the bones for our industry.
Okay. I think that's something important that our listeners need to hear right now. We're not, it's not necessarily in this bill, but the LEC is working for that next step, that next package. Yeah. That's gonna be specifically targeted towards our industry, our freelancers, our companies, our people that are needing help on a big scale, and we're gonna for the coming year for sure.
Well, it's a once and for all thing. We really ran into a perfect storm with this whole thing. Now think about it. You had a contested election that happened, presidential election. So, you fast forward to, they get the last relief package bill signed. Finally, too late. We all missed our unemployment for a couple of weeks, but it did get signed. And then everybody goes home for what? Christmas.
Yeah.
Ah, shit. Okay, now we're in recess. There's no point in bothering them. So we just went, all right, let's just lay down until January 4th. And we start our work on the next package on January 4th. What we didn't know, we couldn't have known, is that President Biden already had an outline of a platform that we couldn't have known. And you know what? If we hadn't seen the Dems win those 2 Georgia seats on the 6th, and it was still a Republican Senate, that Biden plan would be very different. We'd still be arguing over it. We'd still be able to get something we want in it because the whole thing would be being fought over. Now he's got the House and he's got the Senate, and they're just going to go lockstep. They're just going to say, yeah, let's get Joe everything he wants. And nothing about us was really in there. It's $50 billion for small business. 25 of it's going to go to restaurants. We hope that caterers will qualify for that because that's a tiny, tiny, tiny win for our world. But let me tell you, that's not really winning. The restaurants were lobbying for 290 billion. They got 25. That's less than a tenth of what they need, right? Yeah. So let's not get all excited quite yet on that one. The rest of it, they're putting another $1 billion into SVOG. Apparently they thought that 15 wasn't enough. It's not. And that $1 billion would fix it. It won't. But there you go. And then the rest of it's going to go back into idle. Have not read the text. I just got it before we started this recording. But I don't know if they're going to let us have a second idle or not. But I would wager most business owners in our world don't want another idle because they can't take on any more debt.
Yeah.
So it's not just us losing. The hotels got nothing. Hotels are in trouble as well. We got, by and large, nothing. But next package is where we're going. This time, hopefully, this perfect storm that we encountered with insurrectionists at the Capitol and not knowing which party was going to control the Senate and an incoming president that was absolutely shackled by an outcoming president who wouldn't help with the transition. So this bill just got foisted on us we had no time to lobby for anything. I believe the next one will, in my heart, the next one will go better. Schumer's office wants to work with us to help craft some language around it, but at the end of the day, they can't sponsor it politically, but they're helping us push us to the right senator to sponsor us. We're looking at Cortez Masto in Nevada really, really seriously right now. She has a habit of being a little light-handed, so we don't know if that's our champion. We're basically looking for a member of Congress to help us write and introduce this legislation around business grants. By the way, spoiler alert, it's going to look a lot like SVOG. It's going to look a lot like it. You get a grant based on your 2019 revenue. It's basically, we're trying to mimic your operating costs.
Yeah.
Figure out what your operating costs might be and give you that money so you can stay open.
Well, SVG, shuttered venue.
SVOG. Shuttered venue.
Originally it did include, or I thought it included, like audiovisual type companies, because I watched a whole Speaker Schumer did an entire press conference about it, and had like the venue association, and had a like AV companies and a whole bunch of stuff up in somewhere in New York and like Long Island, I think, and they did this whole press conference about it, and that was what got me excited about the Shuttered Venues grant. And then
we saw a version of that too. That didn't fly.
Yeah. So
but remember, he didn't have a dog in that race because he was a minority leader then. So that's the 116th Congress. Now we've moved to him being the majority leader, and he does have a dog in the race. And it's funny that, you heard him say AV companies, and then the other night he was shocked that we still had a problem. But no, they had to negotiate out of that. And by the way, I think the package looked something like 150 billion then, and it ended up being 15.
Yeah.
Somebody has to get left on the sidewalk, sadly.
Yeah. And we did, as normal.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to pull punches at this point. I just had to lay 2 of my guys off today because I can't afford to keep them on anymore because we keep burning cash and nothing's coming back. I mean, it's sorry, as a business owner, I'm not gonna relent on that particular.
Nor should you. And I'm sorry that had to happen. But you should be commended for keeping them on this long. I mean, I floated my guys in March. Yeah. Writing was on the wall. There was no way we were going to be bankrupt if I didn't. And, to their credit, they all can't wait to come back. I fight for unemployment for them.
Yeah.
So that I can get them back. You guys know as well as I do, you put years into training these people, bringing them up in your image, whatever you want to call it. And they're more important than a gear you own. They're more important than in anything. Yeah, in fact, as we're all essentially in the creative trades here in events, so we can all talk about how we are the creative and design drive. Our style has to be their style, or it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So to that extent, you want to start over, find another staff? I don't. Not at all. And you know what? Good for you for hanging on that long. That could not have been easy.
No, it was.
When I'm the more I'm talking to other designers and event spaces and places, that I think we're going to lose about 30% of our workforce in this, through all this, because people are changing their careers. They're taking less pay, but they're finding, the quality of life doesn't change a whole lot. Their benefits go up. They're home every night, and I think we're going to get in a situation come pull the trigger and we're doing events again, that we're going to be scrambling to find people, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow, I think, down the road.
Our survey results hold that theory up, Joe. That it's actually probably worse than 30%.
Really?
But we literally asked people, how long can you hang on without just pivoting to another industry? And the average response was somewhere in the 1 to 2 months range. This is in December. Huh. And then there was one option they could click that said, I'm already out. Yeah. And that was on the order of 20-ish% of the respondents who were employees and or contractors, not a business owner.
Wow.
So, but if the current bill includes PUA, then potentially we might be able to keep more people in the fray. That's something that's the second half of my statement about being dead in the water. When I say dead in the water, I mean business owners. Yes.
Now, on the other hand, UI, I'm pleased to say I can't get anybody on the Hill to tell me that UI isn't getting extended. Every single one of them, both parties, both chambers, all the wonks, all the commentators, no one thinks this isn't going to happen. It is going to happen, and it is going to go through Q3. So into September, and it is going to give us a raise. They're going to go from 300 bonus to 400 bonus. So that, in fact, that thing is driving the entire conversation because there's a deadline, because it expires on March 14th.
March 14th.
So that has lit a fire under Congress's ass to get this done. And so it would be silly to think that won't be part of it. And it easily fits into reconciliation. It easily, they're going to do a thing starting the 22nd called giving this bill the bird bath. There's these bird rules that basically tells the Senate parliamentarian what he can let through reconciliation and what he can't. The thing about reconciliation is you can do it with a simple majority. Our problem is we don't have 10 Republicans. So that's always been a must. But it really has to be a budgetary thing. You can't say no more gays in the military as a reconciliation. It has to be a budget-based thing. So because UI is already an ongoing program, the federal feds have been involved with it since the CARES Act, early April. Because it already exists, it's easy to get that way, and because it's a budgetary thing, it's easy to get that way. So it's just done, and that is demonstrably great news. I think every one of us in here in this room get unemployment, right? I do.
Yes. Yeah.
My staff does. I mean, this is great. And it's not the whole picture. So, but it is a win.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's one less thing to argue about. With it now, we're open to just look at business relief going forward as we make these relationships and look for a champion and talk to leadership and say, you guys keep leaving us out because you thought it was all good with another round of PPP and SVOG. You thought you were all good. You're not all good. And here's why. So it lets us just focus on that conversation. So I'm personally pumped about that.
Yeah. Well, and I know it gave me peace of mind understanding that the unemployment was going to continue past March.
Absolutely.
That's your 1 to 2 months. Everybody in December was realizing, end of February, I'm done. Like, what do I do next?
Now what?
And so I think once we get that ball rolling, that'll buy us some time to figure out what's next and how to keep this rolling.
Hopefully we save a few workers that don't leave the industry. It's already a hard enough industry to be in, right? I mean, you don't do this because you think it's sexy. You do this because you can't not do it. Somebody once told me, you don't write a novel because you want to write a novel. You write a novel because you have no choice. And I think that's true of working in this industry. You do it not because it pays ungodly great wage, or because people look up to you when you do it, or you get to meet rock stars, whatever the hell that is. That's never been the reason. You do it because you just love it.
I imagine if you never had to worry about money, you would do this job for free. And I know I would be. I would do this for free.
Same. It's the perfect thing for me. By the way, I don't know about you guys. I can't wait to get back to it. I get told a lot, are you going to totally go into advocacy full time and become a lobbyist and move to DC? I'm like, oh, the hell no. Good Lord, no. This is the hardest shit I have ever done. I never want to do it for 1 minute longer than I have to. I do feel like I still have my campaign badge, DT for president, that I made in Photoshop back in 2004, 5, something like that. Yeah, I got this job promotion when Joe and I worked at Hollywood Lights. Our boss decided, the owner and CEO decided to retire and move to Mexico. Well, you know him, Jordan. Yeah. You work with him, right? Rich Fuller. And so he made me the prez of the company, and Joe makes these president stickers that were based on the Obama election because it was
no. It was before that. It was
no, that's right. It was John Kerry was running.
John Kerry.
Yeah, you stole his logo and then stuck my name.
That's awesome. DT for president.
I about peed my pants. That was awesome.
So we've talked a lot, tons and tons about advocacy, all the stuff people can do with the Live Event Coalition. Tons of great information. Let's wrap everything up with one last. Joe asked me, bent my arm to say this. What's the toughest gig that you've ever done? And that can't include advocacy. This has to be pre-March 2020, because as you just said, this is the toughest thing you've ever done, but we can't include that. So toughest gig you've ever done, what it's like bang your head against a wall kind of gig?
These two friends that we do this thing. We go to we rent a cabin out in Central Oregon every summer. We go hang out and basically drink tequila for 3 days, and play ping pong and pool and watch movies. And we always give ourselves a project. We do a best of list. And so we have it's like most influential songs of your life. It's all this other stuff. And one time the guy suggested, let's do our favorite songs of all time. I'm like, screw you. No, that's impossible. No one can do that. So along those lines, it would be impossible for me to pick a worst job. There'd have to be like 5 to 10 of them. The one that comes to mind for me is I was out on a short leg with Kenny Loggins this would have been, 90-ish. And oh God. This is before Hollywood Lights. This is my old company that I used to help a guy run. And so it was one of those everything that could go wrong did go wrong things. We were first night of the tour. We were in Seattle at the Paramount, and we had cobbled together every Edison dimmer 8-pack we could find, and kind of bandaged them or rubber banded them into an anvil rack to look like a real dimmer rack. And we have these breakouts, break-ins, whoever. Everybody calls them, I call them breakouts. We had from Socapex. And then we had a bunch of multi-cable that was not Socapex that just had strings of Edison's outlet that you string along the truss. It's a 3-truss, 180 can par can rig. and sparks start coming out. Like bands already sound check, they're off, sparks start coming out. And so we're taking everything apart. We have one spare 8-pack. It's Teatronics. Anybody remember Teatronics out there? Teatronics, old dimmer brand, not relevant anymore. Let the old guy bring up the old shit. Anyway, and so sparks start coming out. The patch is all wrong. Everything's wrong. I'm back at the desk. I'm trying to program. And the doors are open, man. And the doors are open. And I went out to if you're familiar with the Paramount, you load in right from the street, and it's this really steep ramp, and I'm standing on this steep ramp, and it's raining, and I slip and I fall, and I smack my head on the thing, and I go, screw it. The Greyhound bus depot is 6 blocks from here. I'm going to get on it. I'm going to Vancouver, BC. I'm not coming back. What if I just walked out? And I haven't even told you everything that went wrong. I mean, there's, oh my God, I had a gig where a motor bag started on fire, and one of the spot ops got up and peed on it. One of the dress spot ops.
I love that.
So that's
they were probably red peeing in it.
Dwayne, you totally...
that was the 80s. I don't remember who that was.
It was probably because he put his doobie out in it before.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, I have a dear friend, and he's a musician who I worked with for a long, long time as their LD, local yokel, and he has been collecting a thing. He's writing a book called Best Gig Stories, and the shit he has is a scream, man. And it's musicians, it's LDs, it's sound guys. You just tell these preposterous stories of these gigs just gone wrong, and you will laugh so hard. I wish I had another 3 hours. I could tell you all the other crazy gigs, but that's probably the only time I've ever questioned whether I'm going to stay in the industry was that night, opening night, Kenny Loggins tour, 1990 or so in Seattle. I just about walked away.
It sounded like you were ready to leave the country.
I was ready to leave the country and just not come back. I absolutely was.
So would that be considered the highway to the danger zone? Is that?
Love that. Love that. Love that. Rack that comment. I love that. Well done.
But awesome, dude. Dwayne, thanks so much for your time today, man. I know we went way over what we were planning on, but advocacy in our industry could not be more important right now, especially for the next 2 to 3 months. And not to say that those 2 to 3 months are more important than the 24 that'll follow, but for right now, until things get rolling again, it's going to be incredibly important that we see an increase in people just being active in our industry and talking about what's going on. Like you said, echo chamber, keeping it loud. And go ahead, Joe. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said just raise up, make your voice heard.
Yeah, your voice absolutely your voice matters. It doesn't matter how dim you think it is. Your voice matters.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Joe and Dwayne, thanks guys so much. I really appreciate you guys taking the time today, and had a great time. Tons of good information, stuff I had no clue about Live Events Coalition. Maybe I need to actually try and get Nancy on here too sometime and talk about things that are going on, even going up to the federal level and the LEC and kind of the creation of that with Isaac and everything else. Could be a really cool opportunity to talk some more about what's going on. I don't think this conversation ends here, and it's something that should be continued. So,
but more miles to travel for sure.
That's right.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Awesome. Thanks, Dwayne.
Stay well out there.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. I couldn't appreciate your time more than right now. As we talk about advocacy, we talk about how you can work with and help in the audio, video, lighting, and live events industries. I want you to know that everything that you do is going to help those around us. So take your time, send your emails, make your phone calls, talk to your members of Congress, your senators, so that they know how important it is to support the live event industry now more than ever. Thanks again for listening to the Gig Ready podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day. Please like the podcast, leave a review, give us 5 stars, let us know how much you liked it, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.